Hi, everyone. Welcome to DomainSherpa. Today is an episode of Down the Rabbit Hole with the Rabbit Hole Gang discussing Solana NFTs. We've got Yoni back on the show after a brief hiatus along with Drew and I, and we talk about the Solana tech, the benefits and upside of that, some OG Solana NFTs, the best wallet to use on the network. Spoiler alert, it's Phantom. And we also talk about a few of the new and exciting Sol projects out there. It's a great talk with a lot more to come. So get your popcorn ready and tune in right now to Down the Rabbit Hole here on DomainSherpa.
It don't matter what you say, there ain't no way that you messing with my team today. It don't matter what you do, I will not lose.
What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, aka JT, aka Jay On, and I am the host and producer of DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is a Down the Rabbit Hole, and I'm super hype about this because we brought our boy Yoni, one of the original co-hosts of this show, back on the show. It's been a minute. He's been off doing his thing, taking over the world. We're able to grab him for the show today. So Yoni, aka Young Money, aka Blue Steel, aka Magnum. What up, man? How we doing?
Not bad. Just been crazy busy. Too many things happening.
That is what's up. That's what's up. Anyway, so as we say here on DomainSherpa, all roads lead to domains. And in the reverse, our work in domains has us going down the rabbit hole all the time into different areas. A lot of those are really familiar to us: crypto, NFTs, digital assets, some not so familiar. We actually have a show coming up in a week where we're getting into daily fantasy sports, where we're bringing Andrew Miller and a couple of OGs in that space. That's going to be really dope. But today's show is going to be an NFTs show. So NFTs nuts. We are going to get busy, and we are specifically going to talk about Solana NFTs. And then we're going to get into a whole bunch of other stuff, whatever we feel like talking about. So then just to finalize and finish up the intros, we also got my man 50 Grand, Andrew Rosner, aka Morpheus, aka John Galt, aka the Dirk Diggler, domain names, what it do, coming fresh off the sale of metaverse.org. What it looked like, what's happening, what's going on, man?
Yeah, man, all good. All good. You know, things are on fire. It's all good.
Everything is crazy, man. All good stuff, though.
Everything, the flames are burning.
Everything is crazy, but all in a good way. Yeah, so that's it. So that's the intro for the show. So we're going to get it cracking. Like I said, today we are going to be doing our Down the Rabbit Hole Gang, NFTs, focusing somewhat on Solana NFTs, which I'm super interested about. I've got some. We'll talk about that. And I know Yoni spends a decent amount of time fucking around with those, and so does Drew, and so this is going to be really cool. We're going to get into all that, so let's get it. NFT unit, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's Friday. I mean, by the time the show airs, we'll probably drop it on Monday. We'll get Billy to work over the weekend, do some post-production, button it up, and then drop it like it's hot. And but yeah, so let's get it cracking. So we're talking about Solana NFTs. I mean, for me, I've got a handful. I've got the DGen Apes, you know, which for, as a lot of people know, that was kind of sort of the original. Well, let me ask that question. So Yoni, you're involved in the Solana NFTs a decent amount. You know, are DGen Apes considered the OGs, or are there other projects that folks that are really doing the Solana thing a lot, like focus on or consider to be more OG than the DGen Apes?
Well, I mean, so it's either way. I think it's one of the originals. So really, there were maybe a couple of NFTs on top of Solana that people were not really into, and they came out maybe in a period of maybe mid-August, beginning of August or so, and then late August there started to be a big influx of, or even mid to late August, there started to be a big influx of new NFTs coming onto Solana, and that's kind of when the whole Solana NFT space exploded.
Yep.
So one of them was the DGen Apes. Another one is the Solana Monkey business. That's the one we talked about. And another one is Stugbirds. So all of them, in my opinion, they're kind of like the OGs. I mean, technically they're older NFTs on Solana. So one of them is, for example, Solarians. Some people, effectively, I think the claim is that they're the oldest ones, which may be true, but, it just depends on how you count it, I guess, because I think they were the first ones to do a mint, but since it was quite expensive, the mint took quite long to finish. So they actually even finished their mint after DGen Apes and so on finished.
Okay.
Theirs.
Yeah,
but I think at this moment in time, I think I would probably categorize 3 projects as kind of like the OG projects. One of them would be, the Degen Apes. Another one is the Solana Monkey business. Another one is the Thugbirds. I think
So
those
it's
are
Thugbirds,
3 OG ones. And the other ones that are like Solarians and so on, I think they mainly have almost like historical value because chronologically they happen to be somewhere at the very, very beginning.
Yep.
But at the same time, I'm not sure how valuable it is. You know, let's say if we look at it a decade from now, I think literally anything that's got minted in 2021 will look like the OGs.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with it, man. I mean, obviously you're right. As time spreads out, you know, then anything that's from the early days will be literally like, you know, kind of bucketed together. And, you know, because I think obviously.
But hold up. I just want to say that we also didn't talk about crypto kickers. And I really did buy one. I bought one of the first, I think it was really one of the first projects.
It was probably one of the first.
It was a mess. It was a mess. I mean, the whole site was a mess. The minting was a mess. But I ended up with a couple. I sold one, which I didn't even know I did. And then I still got the pizza shoes.
What do they look like? Are they feet? Or are they like full, like, what are they?
Yeah, I mean.
And Billy can post them up. He can throw these things up.
It's shoes, and they spin. They kind of spin, you know? And you can
shoes, right?
3D shoes. Yes, 3D like pixelated shoes, like 8-bit pixel shoes.
All right.
But mine are pizza. I tried, you know, so the ones I really wanted were the Bitcoin shoes. But I don't know why, like at the time, the whole site was a mess. And I was like trying for probably an hour to buy those. I couldn't buy them. Somehow I ended up with the pizza shoes. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
anyways,
now
but I guess nobody cares about them.
Because I mean, honestly, personally, I already have thousands of Solana NFTs. It's just, unfortunately, it became way too easy to just press a button and
well, you know, that's what's dope about NFTs in general. You know, it's like when you you know, once you get into that flow, it's like, man, it's just, you just want to keep grabbing more and more. And so let's talk. So Solana, like my experience is that, you know, minting and, you know, there's no gas fees, right? That's what I think is also, you know, where creates a real opportunity for Solana. Are there other sort of, you know, coins or, you know, that could compete with Solana in the same way? Like, you know, you've got, Solana's got a lot of advantages over Ether. Ether got out there first. So you got Bored Apes and obviously so many Ethereum projects that have established a foothold, right? You know, big first mover advantage. And there's obviously certain things that make Ethereum special, but, you know, Solana having literally like no gas and very quick, you know, processing or whatever transactions obviously add a lot of benefit to the Solana ecosystem. And now as the art and things start to catch up, the marketplaces get better, you know, creates real competition. Are there any others like Polygon and some of this other stuff, ADA, like any of that shit that's really
so technically Polygon is kind of like a second layer chain on top of Ethereum. So I'm not really sure in terms of at least NFTs, how they operate. So I'm not really sure if there is anything that they offer in terms of layer one directly.
Okay.
ADA just very recently started allowing it, but the whole thing is very clunky. So, I mean, the real issue for all of these competitors is that they need to offer something that's going to be at minimum just as good. And I played around with a bunch of different ones, and literally there is nothing like it. And that's that's how I even really ended up with Solana to begin with, if you guys remember.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah. I mean, for folks who, real quick, just to interject. I mean, you know, when we started the Rabbit Hole series, this was the three of us on here. And a lot of that was driven by talking, you know, you talking about your Solana experience, some of the DeFi, the yield farming, a lot of that shit that we were getting into at that time, which was really the impetus of the whole Rabbit Hole show starting in the first place. And then we all got super hype on NFTs. And then, you know, we kind of segued off into the Bored Apes and everything that we were doing over in Ethereum. You as a Solana maxi almost, right? Like basically, you know, pivoted that way into those NFTs, which is also why it's fucking awesome to tie this together with this show. Well, it's funny. I saw, so there was a point where that one day, a couple months ago, where Solana like basically like got overloaded, you know, like the system overheated, you know what I mean? They literally had to unplug it and plug it back in, you know what I mean? But I saw some people tweeting and they're like, yo, ADA doesn't have this problem. And somebody was like, ADA doesn't have any activity. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, when you had the amount of transactions that actually what it took to actually overheat the system was incredible. It was crazy. And, you know, it's those kinds of things in a way, those hiccups are almost good and healthy as long as they're recoverable and allow folks to, you know, sort of grow, evolve, get better, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? As long as it doesn't completely break everything and people lose a lot of stuff.
And also I wanted to interject just to mention that technically Solana is actually still in beta. So keep in mind, everybody, in terms of, you know, your own personal risk assessment.
That's fair.
But that's actually one of the reasons I'm even interested in it, because technically to me, all of these things, especially if you consider that, you know, maybe some of these things are inevitable, about Solana, let's say, becoming the number 3 and solidifying its position there. To me, effectively, it means that all of these things, like, let's say, the moment that Solana is no longer in beta, that's already, I think, should be worth at least 20% bump.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of, like, for example, there is no even mobile NFT wallet yet. In fact, even mobile wallets in general, like the ones that don't really support NFTs, they're not good. So right now there's 2 big companies, like, well, one of them is Phantom. By the way, if anybody wants to play around with Solana NFTs, make sure you download Phantom.
Yep. Phantom, Phantom is the wallet that you want to utilize for sure. Yep.
APP. And that's probably right now the best wallet on Solana. But really there's another one called Solflare, SOL Flare.com. And both of them are about to release their mobile wallet. I think that will also make...
I actually think Phantom is one of the best wallets I've used across any chain, actually. I think Phantom is really a super smooth wallet, like way better, easier than MetaMask, you know, like...
And also keep in mind that they're onboarding more than 100,000 users a week.
Wow.
So think about what that means in terms of where NFTs are heading, because really, let's say a lot of the, even why there are gas fees on Ethereum, it's ironically those NFTs. So because those are the transaction heavy kind of products, especially because you have to do it at a specific time, and you know, and that's when the network gets overloaded, you know, in this like half hour that NFTs are dropping on. So as a result, that's why kind of like, at least from my perspective, it's inevitable that effectively more and more projects are going to choose to launch on Solana instead of Ethereum.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, as the, you know, the transact, now there's also the rumor of what, like, you know, 2.0, like the Ether, like the second layer is going to get released, and that's going to help with some of these kinds of things.
But the problem is that it's only going to get released in a year. And even then, most people are claiming right now that it's actually not really going to help that much. It will, let's say,
it's true.
Transactions are going to be half the price. Well, when it was $400 at peak, and now it's going to be $200 at peak. I mean, how do you compete with Solana when it's like 1/100th of a cent?
Yeah. Well, and this was crazy. I mean, the other day, Yoni, so this is last week, you know, I was trying to delist, I think one of my DGen apes. So to get that drop, and I realized I'd pulled all my Solana out and I'd moved it. Now, all right, let's do the normal disclaimers. None of this is financial advice. You know, we all have different holdings and things. I mean, for what it's worth, my main crypto holdings are Bitcoin, Ether, and Solana. I mean, those are like the 3 that I hold. I mean, I've got a couple of other things, but, you know, but again, none of this is like, we're not even pumping our bags. This is just informational purposes only, just so everybody knows. But anyway, but when you know, Yoni, I wanted to delist my DGen apes. I'd move my Solana out of my Phantom wallet, which I also use. And I would also say is a really clean wallet. MetaMask is a pain in the ass, man, at times. And, you know, I think Phantom is a pretty good user experience for what it's worth.
And again, just keep in mind that Phantom is also about to start an Ethereum wallet. So that's going to be interesting because it's going to create a way nicer bridge between the 2 ecosystems. And also there's going to be quite a bit of competition. That's what I'm...
Oh, that would be nice, man. Because I could, you know, because that's part of where I think, you know, the space needs to be pushed, because some of the shit that just doesn't work great. Right. And like when you realize like gas fees, I remember the first time I got involved in a quote unquote gas war, and I'm like, wait a minute, you tell me I'm about to spend potentially hundreds of dollars in gas fees and I might not even get the NFT. Like what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That was crazy to me. I was like, so I'm just throwing money at a wall, hoping that you guys grant me this gift. Like, fuck off. Like, if I'm giving you my money, you're giving me something. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not paying for the privilege to participate. Anyway, but that being said, so it was like a week ago, I needed to delist a Degen Ape. You know, I'm talking to Yoni and I'm like, oh shit, I have no soul. And he's like, here, let me send you like 0.1 soul. And I'm like, all right, cool. Is that gonna? He's like, yeah, that'll be enough. You'll be good for like 2 months. You know
like a month. Yeah.
Seriously. And I was like, oh shit. Like that was like really like a fucking moment. Cause I'm like, you know, you're right. Like, you know, this, like, meanwhile, if you gave me 0.1 ether, like that shit would last like a day, depending on what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Day. I mean, it's like, that might be one gas fee if you're at, you know, rush hour.
Yeah. So no, I think all that is mad interesting. And obviously,
by the way, sorry, just to add to that, there is a pretty cool website that you can check out. It's called fees.solar. So fees.solar.
Yep.
And you can input your Solana address and will calculate, effectively, it will go through all your blockchain history. It will calculate how much fees you paid.
Yep.
And, you know, like effectively, like, you know, like just calculate everything. And then you'll see, once you see it, like, because people are doing it, they paid like 5,000 transactions, it's going to be like, oh, it was like $1.50. You know, it's like, okay.
Yo, I'm with you. And then there's a couple of things where you can actually do the same thing for Ethereum. I was trying to find the site, but there's also a way you can do the same thing to calculate your gas fees. And I see people when they post,
it'll make you cry. It'll make you cry,
dude. It's crazy for like the big whales and shit. Now, granted, folks have been able to take advantage of a.
I just did it. I've spent a total of 37 cents.
For what? Oh, on Sol?
And you know,
how many transactions?
A lot. I mean, at an absolute minimum, just from like, you know, yield farming, at an absolute minimum, it's about 5, 6, 10 transactions every day since April. Yeah. Literally without fail, every day since April, I've spent 37 cents.
Yeah, and then also keep in mind, effectively, what that means is that, okay, let's say every transaction was $200. I'm sure you can make it work one way or another, but that doesn't really help kind of, I guess, the world to adopt this tech. Like, you need a tech here. Like, so for example, I did 2,806 transactions. It cost me 0.02 sol. So that's $4.60.
Yeah.
So, and I've done like almost 3,000 transactions with this one wallet. So think about what that means. Like this is not even comparable. These are like, not only that, effectively with Ethereum, like literally if ETH were to, let's say, triple in price, this would be, all the transactions would be triple price. In here, they have actually a mandate of upgrading. So in other words, right now the system is handling can handle up to 50,000 transactions per second, even though when it broke, it actually broke under a load of 600,000 per second, even though that wasn't transactions, that was technically just queries to attempt transactions. But either way, that's an interesting thing. Like in other words, that there is maybe a hard limit, but especially if you continue upgrading that hard limit, you know, you get into very interesting territory. So it centralizes Ethereum, but that's really the only disadvantage.
Well, I mean, that becomes
more decentralized over time.
Yeah, and that becomes even more faster than things like Visa, right? Like Visa's, I think, 150,000 a second, right?
Yeah, I thought it's a lot less actually.
Or 100,
like 10,000 or something.
I think it's more. I think it's 6 figures. Yeah.
Okay. But this, it means effectively this is scalable to real
about 2,000 transactions a second.
2,000, yeah. So no problem. We can put Visa and MasterCard and a bunch of other stuff.
But
the point is that this has.
How about it's like 2,000? No.
Visa, for example, handles 1,700 transactions per second, although Visa claims a whopping 24,000 transactions per second, a widely debated figure. Now, this is according to some shit online. I don't know. I just Googled it. But either way, we're talking max. Visa claims 24,000. It's still smaller than, you know, it still can fit inside the fucking trunk, right? I mean, that's kind of what we're saying.
And it really, I think, kind of comes down to the fact that they are relying on proof of stake and proof of history at the same time, which is actually completely new and different tech than what Ethereum does, because technically with Ethereum, somebody can come in and rearrange all the transactions that have already happened. So whereas here it's not possible, and the fact that there is a timestamp on every transaction, which is like, you would think, wow, what a crazy technological advancement. But really that allows the records to be more reliable, because then there is no, like in other words, if a transaction happened yesterday, there is no debate about when it happened today. Which
talking to Yoni makes me literally want to move all my shit to Sol, get rid of all my Ether and NFTs.
That's the problem. I mean, like, you know, like it was hard for me, like, to even make that move myself. But like, I just saw it, and I mean, okay, maybe now it's actually easier, because now it's obvious that Solana is in a good position, and also it's funny because like I'm really mainly into it for DeFi, but NFTs are the secret onboarding weapon.
100%.
That nobody
across the board. It's a Trojan horse. It's like people are like, I don't know about all this crypto shit. You know, it just doesn't, you know, look, we're like financial people, transactional people. This is what we do for a living. And so this was a natural genesis for us. But like for the average Joe who's like, look, I don't want to get into the world of finance. I don't care. Crypto it's a leap. But then when you introduce NFTs, now it's not about finance, it's about culture. And everybody fucks with culture. And so it really is the greatest Trojan horse ever to onboard the entire planet into crypto.
Yeah.
Especially because all the NFTs are usually like cartoonish photos of animals, and it's very, like, nobody's going to suspect it.
Yeah.
Well, and look, and we're all kids at heart, right? So when you start getting into shit about gaming and sports and, you know, like art and culture, and combined with social media, finance and tech, it's like, and community, and all under this wrapping of community, like all of a sudden it's like, shit, this investing is fun as shit. Oh, I'm making money. I'm buying fucking pictures of cool shit. You know, there's this further utility, there's gaming, there's gamification, there's tokenomics. Like, you know, I mean, it scratches so many itches, and it definitely makes it, you know, feasible for a lot more folks to get involved. And because you have so many different kind of NFTs, you know, there's a lot of different sort of ways for people to kind of feel like, yo, that's really dope.
Media Options is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus through their clear domain acquisition service, Media Options offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. Media Options believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
So with that, because let's segue into a little bit about, like, so the more, you know, we talked about the OG NFTs on Solana, talked about the benefits of Solana, why Solana is dope. So when we look at like the current NFT market and some of the stuff, like, what are some of the things that you've minted lately, or what are some things that are like, you know, that are dope, like Solsteads, right? I saw Solsteads was something that I saw drop like a month and change ago. And I thought that was really, really cool, because it's the idea of like, you could get basically a crib that's got an address. Like, it was, you know, and I love when the new stuff comes out that's a little different than other stuff. And I missed the mint, and then I was like priced out. It like exploded. You know what I mean? Do you have any Solsteads?
So actually I do like Solsteads, and I also missed the mint, because also at the beginning, okay, keep in mind, at the beginning, I was just going to get a couple of apes and just check it out, because I wanted to.
That's how they get just the tip, just the ape.
Yeah, just the tip.
So long. And yeah, I ended up kind of, so Solsteads I missed originally, but then recently I bought maybe 10 of them or something like that.
Okay.
When it was like maybe 2 weeks ago, because the prices dropped a little bit, so it was kind of like time. I was waiting for an entry point. And yeah, and it's interesting. Keep in mind, there's a couple of competitors already. So there is, I forget what it's even called. It's like Neo Nexus or something like that.
Okay.
It's a very similar concept. It's just completely different aesthetics and styling. And so Neo Nexus is kind of like super futuristic. Solsteads is kind of like more friendly. I think I mean, it makes more sense in a way for the market because it goes together more with, let's say, the Solana Monkey business better and so on. Also, I really got into Solana Surfers.
Okay.
So that one I really like. Effectively, it's kind of like punk style art, but it's uniquely Solana kind of.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, like
Because
I said,
really-
as we mention things, we'll definitely have Billy throw up like images on the. So for those of you who are going to watch the video, you'll get to see some of what, like when we mentioned Solana Surfers, we'll throw one or two up, and then that way people can kind of get that vibe as well. And so that's dope because I don't have any of those. I think the only stuff I have up to so far on Solana, I've got the Soul Lions, I've got some DGen Apes. And then I got the Bone World, you know what I mean? And
okay, I think you have the Jungle Cats, I think. Right?
Okay.
Not the Soul Lions, because ironically there's a Soul Lions, but it's completely different.
No, I think I got Soul Lions, man. I think
Really,
it's
like, isn't it the 3D one? Remember the one?
No, it's not 3D. I'll show it. We'll post it up here too. Well, you won't see it until whatever. But the so what about this Bone World? Did you get any Bone Worlds?
Yeah,
any
so I got
Skellies?
some Bone World. I mean, complete disclosure, I'm in almost every one of them. So I mean, so it's hard now because they're minting maybe close to 50 a day right now.
No way,
So
really?
Right now,
What?
That's how many NFTs are going live on Solana right now?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God.
That's the point. Like
Damn.
effectively, it's just so cost prohibitive. Like it's hard. It's easy to say, oh, Bored Ape. Yeah, I paid $200 transaction, man. That sucks, whatever. But it's a completely different game when the NFTs may be worth $50.
Yeah.
Well, what do? Like, are you willing to pay $200 to mint it? It's a tough game, It becomes so cost prohibitive that it's not even about, oh no, we only want to have it be like not cost prohibitive for the premium memberships. The problem is that for it to become a premium club, it needs to play out too. Nobody really knows, like Bored Apes were also minted for something really cheap, right? Like
0.07
or something like this. So the point is that has to be the strategy throughout, but it's very hard to play out this strategy from a game theory perspective because if you're because I also played on Ethereum as well. I minted some of I think it was called Rebel Bots, and but it was tough because you minted, effectively you're losing money on the spot. Whereas in Solana, I mean, maybe you are, maybe you're not, because at least all the value is going towards the ecosystem itself.
Yeah, and we were having that conversation too earlier on a different call about, gas when it's this high, right? For bigger purchases, if you're going to pay 2 ETH for something, the gas kind of just absorbs in. It's not as big of a deal. But you're right, for those lower level projects that are, doing volume and are minting at, sub 0.1 ETH, gas at some point costs as much as it costs to actually buy the token. So then, and then, so the comment you made about it for the infrastructure. So as far as where the actual fees are going, or what do you mean?
Yes. So in other words, let's say when you mint something, and let's say it costs 1 Solana, which right now is, let's say, $240. Okay, when you mint it, effectively the transaction fees are negligible. You may be, technically a mint is a more complicated transaction because there are multiple transactions bound into one. But let's say it's way more expensive, but it's going to be 1 cent. In other words, that means that when you paid 1 Solana, that $240 is going to the team that
correct. It's not going to the miners. Yeah, it's not going to.
You're, in a way, since you paid to be part of that club, effectively your investment went into the club. So in a way, even though you paid it, it's not really lost. As long as the team members are good custodians of that capital and are able to convert it into.
And that's a great point. All the money that you're paying, because if you look at it, the total spent, right? So if you're spending the same amount to mint the same, 1 and 1, in one case on Solana, you have literally 99.999% of the money going to the people that you're buying from, that you're trying to support because you want to give them the money so they further invest and hit their roadmap targets and do the things they want to do, as opposed to half going to the team, the other half going to the anonymous miners just for literally
and also,
well, hold on, but I do want to push back just a little something, just because, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi, but I do
love you some Bitcoin.
I do love me some Bitcoin. and I think that, fees are underestimated, the importance of them, because, that is what leads to more decentralization, right? You need incentive in order to promote more decentralization. And so more fees lead to more incentive, which leads to more decentralization, which is why, literally the sole reason why Bitcoin is the most decentralized in the world. And, I think the problem is Ethereum's inefficiency. But, I think, yeah, I don't know. Well, I actually, it's one of the things, and I'm amazed, like Sol is my second largest holding by far. But what do you think is the incentive to further decentralize, other than a mandate, right? There's a clear mandate, there's a clear desire, and there's a clear, path towards that in the community. But what do you think is the incentive with fees being as low as they are?
Well, technically, it's still an economic incentive. So really, it's the same mission. It's just, let's say, first of all, the one main difference is the specifics of how they accomplish that mission. And, a lot of it has to do with just the different tech that Solana is operating on.
Yes.
It's only proof of stake, but it has the proof of history stuff. And
yeah,
the way that it operates the proof of stake actually does it in a little bit different way. So I would argue that the tech is actually much better, which also kind of makes sense, because when Ethereum was created, there was nothing really else that was
100%.
Now that we had Ethereum, we can kind of actually learn from their mistakes and create new ones that won't really reach the same, bottlenecks that Ethereum has.
Yeah.
Now, the other part about it is that really it comes down. So let's say in Ethereum, you can effectively run an Ethereum like a validator on a Raspberry Pi. And that's in a way, that was the purpose, so that effectively it becomes more decentralized.
Yes.
In Solana, it's the complete opposite of that. You need an ultra powerful computer, really, really good connection. And I'm talking about, like, even if you wanted to, create this computer right now on the spot, it will probably cost you like maybe $4,000, something like this.
Yeah.
To meet the minimum standards that are required. So if you wanted even not minimum or above that, so on. So what that means is that, but all those entities, they're still operating on kind of, I guess, on an economic incentive arrangement. Now, the difference from my perspective of how I see it is that, one, the tech is better, and you kind of, I guess, since you allow bigger players with more funds to operate it, you end up with a lot more professional operators. So that's my argument. Effectively, really, people are putting these computers, they're putting them as servers in data centers direct connection to the internet, and that allows them to actually have the power to be able to be a proper validator. And I would guess that those two constructs together is the thing that allows this to work. Because also, I mean, the problem is that, I guess, how would I know this? When I was talking about Solana originally, we were talking about April, they had literally, maybe 150, 200 validators.
Yeah.
Now it's already almost 1,500 validators.
Okay.
So, in other words, there was no mandate, everybody must create a validator, obviously, because there is nobody to mandate.
Yeah.
But if there is such growth, that means that there is economic incentive there. And also, I mean, obviously, I follow a lot of Solana people. Some of them are more technical, so they actually broke it down. And it looks like the operating margin of operating a validator is like 50%. So, it works. And effectively, as the Solana Foundation increases their demands for whatever the minimum requirements are to run a server, I'm going to presume that they're going to use the actual real costs and real revenues as kind of, I guess, the chokehold points to decide how much they can push it, because otherwise, nobody is going to do the validating.
Yeah.
So, I think, and that's a lot.
I know, but I just wanted to push back. I wanted to push back on JT's comments a little bit, just because it's like, anonymous, miners, who cares? Miners in all of this shit, in the whole world of crypto,
they make
the most important people in the world are the miners. The miners are the ones that provide the security, right?
Shout
and
out
that's
to the
where
miners.
it starts and where it ends. And so, yeah, shout out to the miners, because the miners are the ones that,
all I was doing was just, sort of reiterating Yoni's point about where the money goes and how, from a per project basis, when you're looking at specific NFTs, it's less about the ecosystem. Like when I'm spending that money, I'm spending it because I really am trying to buy into that particular project, not that I'm necessarily trying to support the entire ecosystem. Yeah. Although, to your point, supporting the entire ecosystem, without that, there'd be no NFTs. It's kind of like a chicken and the egg thing. But either way, it's still the chicken came first. It's all good.
And also keep in mind that Ethereum has a very specific issue. And the issue is that having enough throughput of transactions at a specific moment in time. That's why you actually see such variance in gas fees. Sometimes it's $3 to send transactions. Sometimes it's 500. So really it comes down to not that technically the system can't handle the transactions. If they're evenly spread out, it could handle them, but the tech has such low throughput. That's really the issue. If they actually change their tech, because it wasn't really built for NFTs, so you could effectively assume that the transactions are going to be kind of happening somewhat more spread out. But when you have an NFT and they're like 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, that's when we're dropping it. Guess what? Everybody's connecting at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's when, since there is such low throughput, that's when the auctions just go crazy.
And the gas goes nuts. Yep, all that stuff. Yeah, for sure.
So, because they're trying to disincentivize transactions, right? They're trying to, that's why the gas fees go up. It's like we're trying to disincentivize more throughput.
And that's why originally I was thinking about NFTs is kind of like maybe more of a niche thing for blockchains, but now I realize that that's probably the most important piece of the blockchain, not because of what they even necessarily represent, but just because there's such demand. It's completely kind of, I guess, general population, like specific, because like if you're into DeFi or whatever, you have to kind of be more into it. But this applies to everybody and everybody likes it, and hence it becomes the most important thing, because onboarding is almost more important than anything else. If you have 5 billion people with a Solana wallet, it almost doesn't matter if Solana was the worst tech, like it's just like,
it's where the people are. So let's real quick, because I know we only have a couple more minutes and then we got a bit of a hard stop today. So, and we're packing a lot in a short period of time. So we've only got a few more minutes. I think you mentioned a few. Are there any projects coming up on the Solana via NFT that you're excited about? We do this on our other NFT shows.
One of them that was pretty interesting the other day was, let me see. I guess it was effectively, one of them is actually the Degen Apes. So they have a drop that's coming of Degen Trash Pandas. So different team that's running Degen Trash Pandas, but they're going to give a 1-for-1 for every ape.
Nice.
And also they're going to mint another 10,000. So really it's kind of, I guess, a way to
expand,
and at the same time also that would make the Degen Apes the upgrade point if anybody wants to, because also there's going to be utility that's attached if you have both. So and that's happening effectively I think next week sometime. So actually I think the mint is happening on the 14th, but next week sometime, if you have a Degen Ape, make sure to unlist it, because then you're going to be able to get the token to be able to mint one.
Yeah, that's an interesting point too. And that's part of why I delisted my ape, what I was talking about before, because if you have it listed, then it's as if the token shows up not in your wallet, but in the wallet of and that's actually, there's a lot we could cover. We're going to have to just pick this up in like a week or something, because, one of the other things I want to talk about that we're not going to have a lot of time is the marketplaces, right? Because, OpenSea is such a force on the Ethereum side that, I think one of the things holding Solana back initially was that, you have Solanart and a few others that, but I think as the marketplaces improve and get better on the Solana side, FTX has the NFT piece now. And then I have another question, and we're not going to be able to get all these answered, so we're going to have to come back to it. But is when Coinbase launches, are they going to offer the Solana NFTs on Coinbase? Do you know? Do you have any idea how that's going to work?
I have no idea. I'm going to assume that eventually they will, but keep in mind that the reason that, let's say, FTX is offering them is because the founder is a very big Solana supporter.
And that's SBF. What up, SBF?
Yes.
So.
And also, I guess, at the beginning when marketplaces came up on Solana, there was really one main one. It was called Solanart.
Yep.
They use Solana.io. Now there are multiple, and there's a couple of them. So one of them is called Magic Eden. So magiceden.io.
.io. Yep. Magiceden.io.
It's
Yep.
way better than Solana Art. Then
Okay.
another one that's also really good is Alpha Art. So alpha.art.
Okay.
And then there's also Digital Eyes. I forget.
Yep, I remember. Yep. So now, but they're specific. So if I list my Degen Ape on Solanart, can I not list it on the other ones, or
you can list it on the other ones? But the thing is, the way it works is that the moment that you list it, you enter into a smart contract with the wallet of the marketplace, and what they do is they effectively take your NFT and give you an IOU for this NFT, meaning that you can anytime you can log in and pull out that NFT.
Yep.
But at the same time, what that means is that when you look it up on the blockchain, that NFT shows up in the
wallet of the exchange, the wallet.
Interesting.
That's different projects decide to address it differently. So some of them are like, well, we're gonna do the airdrop to the NFT marketplace, and you need to kind of sort it out with them. Like they try to make arrangements with the marketplace and so on. But what most projects tend to do, which it kind of makes sense, effectively they tell you, hey, you don't unlist it, no airdrop for you, and that also causes this pressure to hold it,
Yeah, well, no, and I think we've seen that in some projects, even on ETH and everything, where they try to, discourage listing it, right? Because they want to keep the floor high and all that kind of stuff. So they want people to feel, wanting to make it sticky. So, all right, well, look, a lot of info, and I think, dude, we're just scratching the surface. But this was great. We just wanted to get you on the show since it's been a while, and prior
to actually hitting the record button, we were kicking around some of these projects. And you FOMO'd me into the shadowy
supercoders. So that's another one that's very interesting.
I now have supercoders. Yeah,
I now have 10 of those. I've got one in every hoodie.
Okay, so I can tell you another interesting one.
One for every hoodie.
There's one called Turtles.
Turtles, okay.
Like effectively, it's like pixelated turtles. Okay, there's 3,333 of them. And the guy who's running it, or at least the guy who's in charge, he's really good. I don't know what to call it. He's just kind of on top of it, and he's trying new things. So how I even got into it is because they made an announcement. We're giving away 70% of our royalties as dividends back to holders. So I was like, fuck it, I'm in. I bought a bunch of them. But then because they wanted to get listed on FTX, and because FTX has to abide by US regulations, they're like, well, royalties, I don't know how SEC is going to look into it. Yep. So he dropped the royalties thing. But instead, they're doing something like sweeping the floor of all the turtles and then keeping it in a DAO wallet, and then decide what to do with it later, maybe distribute it between holders or whatever seems to be the most profitable way to do it. Now,
and compliant, hopefully.
So the guy... So the guy decided to do a launchpad of other projects. Out of the launchpad, some of the projects, effectively, they have to give up 20% or something like that of all their NFTs to the turtle holders that are going to be airdropped randomly to the holders. And then they also have to give up like 10% of royalties to the turtle holders as well.
Yeah.
And also pay some sort of fee or something like that. So then they launched this project that's called Baby Apes. Also, like pixelated apes, kind of trying to compete with Solana Monkey business, I guess.
Yeah.
Then those apes decide to make a coin called Oogie, and they will only drop it if you have the ape. They'll do drops, effectively try to cash in on the whole meme coin thing, and they'll drop it every week, some sort of predetermined amount of Oogie. Now, the thing is, the whole thing got so crazy, out of control, that you could actually own one of the baby apes and make all your money back from just the Oogie tokens dropping onto it. I just had turtles, so I just keep getting airdropped these random things. As a result, so many projects due to them. And this is kind of like the way it works. Because if you were to calculate it, I probably already received 50% in dividends over the last 4 weeks, just if you calculate the value of all the airdrops.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's very interesting concepts that are all happening. Also, by the way, the turtles part, what's interesting, they actually, as far as we're concerned, is they use turtles.com.
Oh, no way. That's a great domain name. Hell yeah. All roads lead to domains, baby.
That's right. Yeah. So the guy's actually very domain forward. And as a result, with Oogie, so OOGI, he also has oogie.com. So you can go check it out.
Oh, wow.
Oh, shit. And who is it that, who is that?
Just so crazy because there's so many different iterations. And all of this is happening live and changes like once a day, once a week. So it's funny because even when they're like, because I joined just due to their royalties, really, even though they had like a pretty cool community, it's just like kind of like a little bit different.
Yeah, look at that, man. Dude knows domains. What does he call himself like online? Like what's his
the king.
The king. Okay. So that's what's up, man.
I don't remember on Twitter, but in Discord you can see that they're
okay. Shout out to the king, man. Like, all right, look, there's a lot to unpack here, and I know we got to go. I know Drew's got something, and I know you got something, but I'm going to look at all this stuff, dude. This is exactly what we're talking about. This is down the rabbit hole. And like,
yeah,
you know, like you just start going and going and going. And before you know it, man, we got turtles and baby apes and Oogie coins and all this hot shit. So,
but it's a problem because Yoni just makes me FOMO so hard.
Well, this is what I mean. We talk to him and the next thing I know, I'm like, yo, we got to regroup and rechange our whole strategy on everything, you know? So, but anyway, man, but not a bad thing at the end of the day for sure. So,
I hope in the future there is a way, you know, and I feel like this has to happen, but like, you know, because the reality is, you know, other than Bitcoin, which I think is the hardest motherfucking money on the planet and will never be usurped in terms of just being hard money, right? Like it doesn't need to be anything more than
I'm
just
not a Bitcoin
hard money.
But go ahead.
But beyond that utility, there's like all these other things, DeFi and NFTs. And, you know, just transactions and like, and Solana's like so clearly like just better tech on all of that, right?
And it was very obvious. Remember when I went to your house originally when I wanted to show you, you were just able to use it and you're like, oh.
And it was like, oh my God, it's just like, go. It's just turnkey. It's just go. Like, all right, here we go. But my point is like, I hope because, you know, there are some really dope. I do still think that the best NFTs that have launched are on Ethereum. And it's like, I hope that there's some way to bridge it in the future where it's like, all right, I got all these Bored Ape Yacht Clubs, right? Like, and the culture and the stuff that's been built around Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, is like so much bigger than Ethereum, right? Or like, it's like, it transgresses what's the word?
Transcends.
It transcends, you know, being something that just happens to be on Ethereum. And it's like, I wish I could move my apes to Sol, right? Like, I hope that that's possible.
You can already. So there are ways to move it through wormholes. So the way it works, there are special protocols. The problem is that it's very technical, but how it would work is effectively you have, let's say, Ethereum. You send it to a special procedure effectively with a protocol that works as a wormhole between both. You deposit it in a vault here. The vault locks and it gives you in exchange an equivalent Solana token on the other side.
So it's like a stable coin.
So kind of like stable coin, except what really happens, they actually create a new token that equals that one. And the only way to unlock your old token is by inserting the Solana token back in. So it's kind of like,
dude, that's crazy. It's like
here we go, baby.
It's a wormhole. So it's a wormhole that leads to an airlock, and then you are out. Literally, like as if you go from. It's like a video game. You're in this fucking world.
It's exactly
you
like
jump down the hole and you pop out, and then you're like, "Yo, I'm gonna fuck around over
here."
Yeah. And then I'm gonna go back. Dude, it's like
so really
jumping timelines.
Right now, it's actually very difficult because you have to know exactly what you're doing. There's many steps to follow, and then hopefully you do it well. And then there is also confusion because a lot of people are just like creating their own fake NFTs.
Yeah, you gotta be careful.
Let's say,
that'll all get better. I guess here, one last thing real quick, Yoni. So one of the things we love about the Bored Ape Yacht Club is the IP rights, right? Like if you own a Bored Ape, you get all the IP rights. We're doing some really big shit with that's going to come out here in the next week and change. That is going to be crazy. And we're super excited about it. So DGen Apes, for example, do you know, like, cause I just haven't looked at it. I haven't read their terms and conditions. Like, do you have the ability to use your ape and do whatever you want with it?
Yes. So that's exactly it. In fact, from what I understand, because I remember I was listening to one of the DAO discussions because people were concerned that with the, I forget if it was with the punks or the bored apes, that once you reach $100,000.
That's the punks. Yep, that's a punk.
It's the punks. And I think it's actually lower. I think it's like 40,000 or 60,000.
Okay. Anyway, so
then you start having to owe royalties. And not only that, but you're restricted in what you can even do. Never mind the royalties.
Yeah. You
can't just go out and do whatever you want.
But it sounds like the DJ apes. Yeah.
In the DJ apes, I'm very certain that there is none of this.
Yeah.
Like, there was a very, very big pushback against it. And, you know, like,
that would be really sick to see some people use the DJ apes, like a little animated show or some other stuff, kind of like some of the stuff that we're seeing.
There's a lot of really cool stuff that's happening. And that's why I'm thinking maybe, you know, you guys should get a little bit more involved in DJ apes. You know, connect all apes together.
Yeah, apes together strong, baby.
Apes together strong.
Yeah, by the way,
really that's the name of the show. There's our show title.
Apes together strong. Yeah, talking about all of it, tying it all together. All right, dope, man. Well, look, I know we got to go. This is awesome as always, man. We're gonna let's reconnect as a team sooner than later for sure. But, you know, I now am going to probably spend the rest of my afternoon fucking picking off, you know, Solana NFTs. Have we seen the same kind of bear market with the Solana NFTs in the last couple of weeks that we've seen? So it kind of, it's somewhat consistent, you know, but also Solana's been ripping like ETH has been. So it's like, that so also makes sense.
Yeah. Solana has been even ripping even harder. So that's also.
Yeah, way harder. ETH is up like 10%. Solana's up like 300.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, no, I just meant within the last like 2 weeks, though.
As a result, when that happens, like I said, when I minted the Degen Ape, Solana was at to mint one was 6 Solana, and Solana was at $40. And now it's literally the equivalent of 1 Solana. So that's why a lot of people, even if they bought one for, let's say, 50 Solana, they might sell it for, you know, 45 now, just because they're like, hey, I made all this money, I want to cash in on this. Because a lot of people were buying them literally for the purpose of making money. And I guess this is kind of like a weird roundabout way, but I mean, I guess that still worked.
Well, and it's the same conversation we have about 1 ETH equals 1 ETH, 1 SOL equals 1 SOL. And look, there's no doubt that you're going to have market factors that are going to play into it when there's a big run up. I mean, it's just the way it goes because people's lives are still rooted in US dollars. So ultimately, like when they're looking at making a profit, you know, they're still thinking about it as I do, you know, you can't ignore it completely. So, and it's all good. And I think it's fine. I mean, that's cool. People are making money, even selling for less SOL than they bought it for. They're still making a bunch of dough. It's like, that's great. You know, it's their journey and they're doing well. So it's all good.
And the crypto market is just so dynamic that even a lot of people who are into NFTs are also, let's say, into DeFi, or they're also into trading. As a result, let's say if there's an opportunity to be trading, let's say some meme coins or something like that, they'll literally sell some of their NFTs to get liquidity, use that liquidity to do some trading, and then get back in. So it's just kind of when that's the reality, I think whatever ecosystem, or even regardless, whatever other things are happening in the crypto sphere, if you're in the NFTs, you can be affected by it. I mean, financially. I mean,
yep, for sure. All right, cool, man. Well, like I said, all good stuff. Drew, thanks for hanging on longer than your hard stop. That's always appreciated. Yoni, thank you for being here. Always, always appreciated. And like I say in every show, thank you to the audience. Without you, there's no us. You know where to find us. Hit us up. You got questions, you got comments. We'll be here doing our thing on DomainSherpa, down the rabbit hole gang, make the joint go bang. You know, we do what we do, and we appreciate all y'all. So with that, we'll see you next time here on DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains, and sometimes those roads lead to NFTs. You know what I'm saying? All right, peace out. We'll see you next time.
It don't matter what you do.